You are listening to Unravel with Natly Denise.
Good evening or good morning listening to me. Oh gosh, come on, not again. Cheese and cracks. Cheese and crackers. This is happening to me often where it's like, what's happening? I don't know what's happening. My internet's unstable or something, and it's just doing something crazy. Lord, we're just going to pray before this podcast, Lord, that you would clear all negative effects on this broadcast and that you would clear the air and let me be unaffected in getting the news out there. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Woo! What's up, guys? Thanks for joining me today. I'm going to make this a very dedicated Ghislaine Maxwell podcast because we have past month unfold, and it did happen pretty fast. If you guys haven't seen, or if you are interested in, possibly getting caught up on all of the things, I actually made a series on my YouTube. You can go to youtube.com/Natly Denise. That's spelled Natlydenise. And I have a playlist of the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, and I one even up to the verdict. So acquainted with all the details and understand what's going on, because there's possibly going to be a lot more popping off in the upcoming year. So in the upcoming year, what's happening? In the upcoming year, you will see possibly the Virginia Roberts Giuffre case be admissible against right, because that was a Andrew, the whole situation. He was running away, wouldn't get served, finally got served, and now, it looks, and then I believe Scotland Yard in the UK that denied any sort of investigation against Prince Andrew, and so now it's come to this where, we're just kind of waiting on the cliff to see if they're going to admit the case or not. So I believe the date for that, if I'm not mistaken, is January 6th. Ironically, J6. January 6th is when the judge will be making that decision on the Virginia Roberts Giuffre versus Prince Andrew case. Now, Virginia Roberts Giuffre also, who is, by the way, an Epstein accuser of sexual abuse. If you guys don't recognize her name, she's pretty recognizable, in the whole Epstein saga. She's one of the first whistleblowers. So she is also bringing upon a case against Alan Dershowitz, and she is accusing Alan Dershowitz of, I guess this is a defamation case in that sense, because he has denied having sex with her, and that's what she is alleging, that he had sex with her when she was a teen. So there's that. Ghislaine Maxwell also has to stand trial for perjury, as she lied to the court. So there's that as well. So there's a lot going on. And, that's why I encourage you guys to become, knowledgeable in the Ghislaine Maxwell case, because a lot of people are saying nothing is going to come out of it, or people were saying nothing is going to come out of this. She's going to get off scot-free. They always get off free and they always get off easy. And, just all this about she's not going to get anything. And she's just, this is all for nothing. Well, I never just sit here and sit with my theories, right? I always need concrete evidence. I need things to lead up to something. And if there's an absolute dead end, then, there's nowhere for me to go. But if there's a way for me to trace and keep up with a particular matter, case, event, incident, and it's still unraveling and unfolding, and there is no dead end, I don't see why people come to conclusions. I'm just saying. I just see a lot of cynical people. Yes. Okay. Never mind. Let me back up. It is easy to be cynical in this time of era because it's just a lot of buffoonery going on. Right. But I don't know, just my mindset. I'm like, well, it's just not done yet. And I just don't know. So I can't say anything conclusively. So that's why I continue keeping track of certain things. And Ghislaine Maxwell was definitely one of those things. guys need to catch up on that case, I would encourage you to go to youtube.com/Natly Denise. There's a playlist I created. Okay, so let me get into some of this. I wanted to actually overview, let me overview this first. I wanted to overview a theory that I had for, oh, that's not it. Where is it? Okay, here it is. I wanted to overview not a theory, but just some, these are actually, it's not a theory. The 𝘠𝘠 trial, that's why I made the caveat in my intro about this, that actually did come out of the case. Now, this is just provoking, you know, what could happen, because there are some possibilities coming from here. So I just made this thread on Twitter. If you're not following me on Twitter, go follow me on Twitter. My handle is @It'sNatlyDenise. And, you know, basically I wanted to sort of trace the possibilities of what could happen downstream from the Ghislaine Maxwell case, finding the verdict guilty. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention that that's a big detail. So Ghislaine Maxwell was found guilty in 5 out of 6 counts for sex trafficking and enabling for sex trafficking. So this means that she is now confirmed as Jeffrey Epstein's right-hand woman, as many alleged. Now, again, this could possibly mean a lot for a lot of other cases. We just don't know that yet. So this is why I just hold on. I hold on to see what the possibilities that unveil. So these are my thought provokes here. So I'm going to read out. So I see that many people are claiming that nothing will happen after the guilty verdict, the Ghislaine Maxwell trial that has just been announced. I beg to differ with many possibilities that have been outcomes of this trial. First and nearest, we now look forward to the next case determination happening early January. Virginia Roberts Giuffre versus Prince Andrew. Because of Ghislaine Maxwell's guilty verdict confirming Jeffrey Epstein as a partner in crime in his scheme, it's possible to leverage the acceptance versus the denial. I misspelled that. Gosh darn. Versus the denial of this case to go ahead and commence. So this coming up, I think, like I said, I think it's on January 6th. This is going to determine whether or not the judge is going to throw out the case or keep it. So continued on, but also added Virginia versus Prince could still be impacted by the unsealing of a 2009 settlement between Virginia Roberts and Jeffrey Epstein. The Prince's lawyer, Andrew Brettler, has contended that the settlement released to the Prince from the liability from Giuffre's lawsuit because it covered royalty. So let me just explain this a little bit. Back in 2009, Virginia Roberts Giuffre and Jeffrey Epstein, they came to a settlement agreement, and this is going to be unsealed, I believe, on January 3rd. So 29th, tomorrow's Thursday, so that's the 30th. And then New Year's Eve is on Friday. New Year's Eve, 1, 2. Yeah, that's next Monday. So next Monday, that's when they will be unsealing the settlement. So we don't know what's in there. You know, I don't know if this is going to completely have big impact on whether or not the Virginia versus Prince Andy case will go on, or, you know, it's 50-50 because Ghislaine Maxwell has now been convicted and she's guilty. So either way, it's kind of tipping the balance is very even, in my opinion. Now, coming out of this, out of the trial, where are you guys? What happened to you? Oh, here you are. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Okay, so coming out of the trial, there were 2 defense witnesses, right? So the defense team is pro Maxwell. So they're defending Maxwell. And so they brought on 2 witnesses to build their case. One of them was a woman by the name of Kimberly Espinoza, and another woman by the name of Eva Dubin. Kimberly Espinoza was an assistant to Jeffrey Epstein, and Eva Dubin was a former girlfriend as well as longtime friend to Jeffrey Epstein. Now, what they were individually not accused, Kimberly Espinoza, Now, 𝘠𝘏𝘠 𝘮𝘧𝘍 being the assistant to Jeffrey Epstein, there was actually a lawsuit a few years ago. It was one of Jeffrey Epstein's accusers, and she alleged that Espinoza actually enabled the trafficking and sexual abuse that Jeffrey Epstein did on her. So besides that, that's just a side detail for your knowledge. 𝘠𝘏𝘠 𝘮𝘧𝘍, the assistant to Jeffrey Epstein, testified as a former assistant, and that she never saw Jeffrey Epstein with underage girls. Now, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Come on. Do you guys believe? So you're an assistant to this most prolific pedophile in almost all of history, right? And you never saw not one young girl around him. When versus all the there's so many other testimonies by pilots, by other household employees. There was like a maintenance man. He was kind of like a jack of all trades type of dude. So he did maintenance. He did, he was a driver and all these things. His name was Juan Alessi. He testified that he saw young girls. The pilot testified that I'm not quite sure if he saw you. There was 2 pilots that testified. So there was testimony that there were young girls around him. So I just don't believe, that's just my opinion. I don't believe her testimony. So moving on, Eva Dubin, his former girlfriend. There were some accusations that she actually had orgies with teenagers that Jeffrey Epstein was sexually abusing. And she denied that in the trial, as well as denied seeing any of these young girls around Jeffrey Epstein, which again, I just don't believe. Now, this gets interesting because there was a witness accuser by the name of Jane, right, in the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. Jane is under pseudonym. She's anonymous, but Jane claims to have met Eva Dubin. Now, Eva Dubin, she denies ever meeting Jane. Now, this is where it gets interesting. When asked about specific flight records showing their family's trips, including one May of 1998 flight from Palm Beach to Teterboro that also included Jane, Epstein, and Maxwell, Eva Dubin couldn't recall being on Epstein's plane or the purpose of the trips. So that's interesting, right? So she's saying, number one, there are 3 sort of questions here to Eva Dubin. Eva Dubin, the former girlfriend of Jeffrey Epstein, is being accused of having orgies with teenagers. She denies that. They ask her if she's ever seen Jeffrey Epstein around any young girls. She denies that no, he didn't. And then the next thing was that she denied ever seeing Jane, although Jane, the witness accuser in the trial, attests that she met Eva Dubin on a flight, and the flight records actually show them both on the plane. Still denies it. So this is where it gets a little bit more interesting. So we got the Virginia Roberts versus Prince Andy case, possibility that it will go through. And then there's also another case on the line. So Virginia Roberts Giuffre, the Jeffrey Epstein accuser, major whistleblower, actually has another case pending against Alan Dershowitz. And this is a defamation case. And she claims that she did indeed have sex with Alan Dershowitz when she was a teenager. So with that being said, more details could come out of this, right? So if we got 2 cases that are possibilities, we're not saying that they're both going to go through, but maybe if one out of the 2, or maybe both of them go through, if these cases, either one or both of them, go through and they actually are legitimate law, court trials and all that, more details could come out of this. Who knows what's under seal, what's not, what's going to be in discovery. But here's the thing. I mentioned this detail about Virginia Roberts Giuffre and her defamation case about Alan Dershowitz combined with the possibility of her versus Prince Andrew, because if in optimism it goes through, then there's a discovery process, right? So those 2 those defense witnesses, I believe, committed perjury. That's just my opinion. I could be completely, utterly wrong. I believe they committed perjury, though. I think that they lied under oath, and that's my opinion. So when you lie under oath, you commit perjury because you are essentially disrupting the process of obtaining the truth in a trial, right? So I don't know what this could impact in the future for any connected cases like Virginia Roberts Giuffre's cases against Prince Andrew and Alan Dershowitz. Now, here's the thing. If these cases go through and they go through the whole trial process, court process, then essentially they're going to have witnesses. It's going to go through the same sort of cycle where they have new witnesses, or maybe overlapping witnesses in new evidence. And what if, now this is where it's just the gray area, and this is complete speculation on this point, but this is just my speculation here. What if within these two possible cases go through process, there is new evidence that conflicts or shines light on the truth if Eva Dubin and Kimberly Espinoza did indeed lie under oath and committed perjury in the Ghislaine Maxwell case? Then I just wonder, because I'm not well-versed in the legal system or the legal process, so I don't know this part. So this is where I just don't have that knowledge, but I just wonder if that would impact any sort of discovery or witness testimonies or trial, court processes in the future for these connected cases, to then maybe discover more truth, because this was actually misleading the truth if they lied under oath. So with that being said, that's my thought provokes for the day. That's just my theory, but let's get into the Ghislaine Maxwell news. So you guys heard that she is convicted now. She was found guilty, and she had 5 out of 6 counts that she was found guilty on. Count 1 was conspiracy to entice a minor to travel to engage in illegal sex acts, which carries a maximum sentence of 5 years. Conspiracy to transport a minor with the intent to engage in criminal sexual activity. Count 4, transporting a minor with the intent to engage in criminal sexual activity. And count 5, conspiracy to commit sex trafficking of minors, which carries a statutory maximum of 5 years in prison. She was acquitted of count 2, enticing a minor to travel to engage in illegal sex acts, which related to allegation from a woman by the pseudonym Jane, who testified that she was sexually abused by Epstein at his Palm Beach estate when she was 14 in 1994. Jurors earlier in the week indicated that they needed more clarity on the charge, asking Judge Allison Nathan for the definition of enticement. Since the start of the trial, prosecutors sought to portray her jurors as inexorably linked to Epstein, including his pursuit of underage girls and sexual abuse. So those are the counts and the acquitted account as well. All right, so moving on. Maxwell did not act alone. Others must be held accountable. Prince Andrew accuser Virginia Giuffre, she kind of gives her reaction of this trial. So Virginia Roberts says the most vocal accuser, Jeffrey Epstein and Maxwell, said that she had finally been granted the justice her soul yearned for after Maxwell was found guilty. Giuffre also accused Prince Andrew of sexual assault and tweeted on Wednesday that after a jury of 6 men and 6 women found the British socialite guilty, she wrote, "My soul yearned for justice for years, and today it gave me just that." Continued on, she added, "I hope that today is not the end, but rather another step in justice being served. Maxwell did not act alone. Others must be held accountable. I have faith that they will be." So just implicating, I mean, it's a very small statement, but she's, then again, implicating that there's way other people implicated in the Epstein saga that enabled the sexual abuse of young girls. So here we go. I think this is a hot topic for a lot of people, wondering, because we've all heard that, Ghislaine Maxwell was going to sing and that she was going to name names and all these things. And then she decided not to testify at all. And I assume that probably backfired on her, possibly. I don't know. But She did. No, I don't know. I don't think it would have affected the outcome anyway. I think people would have still found her guilty, to be honest with you. But, we were all under the assumption that she was going to sing in this case. Well, now, this is another article that might give a little insight. Will Ghislaine start naming names to get a shorter sentence? Was seen talking with an ABC journalist in court hours before she was found guilty of sex trafficking underage girls for Jeffrey Epstein and left facing 65 years in jail. So, continued on. Maxwell's family attorney, 𝘰𝘶𝘮𝘢, who has been regular in courtroom seated with Maxwell's family, was spotted by the Miami Herald on Tuesday, beckoning over James Hill, a producer of ABC News, to introduce him to Maxwell. Maxwell smiled and appeared to introduce herself to Hill and heard to say that she was willing to speak to the media, the paper reported, before a U.S. Marshal told the journalist to return to his seat. She was known to be close to Prince Andrew, the second son of the British queen, and Andrew's cooperation with the U.S. prosecutors had long been sought. She's vehemently denied all of the allegations with Virginia Roberts Giuffre. In further news of concern to the prince, on Wednesday, judges in New York ruled that in a 2009 settlement agreement between Epstein and Roberts Giuffre, which bears directly on her civil lawsuit accusing Andrew of sexual abuse, will be made public, I think, next Monday. So, Epstein visited the White House 17 times. We went through that. When the president traveled, it was previously reported that Trump traveled. Trump also traveled on the Lolita Express. Other passengers on the jets included Bill Richardson. Okay, here we go. Maxwell was until now remained tight-lipped about Epstein's connections, insisting that she had no awareness of his abusive activities. A sentencing date has not yet been set. As Judge Allison Nathan read out the verdict, Maxwell remained seated and did not appear to react. She calmly opened a bottle of water and poured herself a glass. Her lawyer, Jeff Palooka, sat next to her, put his arm around her, and gave her a hug as she leaned into his shoulder. In the public gallery, her siblings were there as the verdict was read out. So Maxwell is expected to be placed on suicide watch in jail after, and I hope they actually, I don't know, man. Suicide watch, we've heard this story before. Well, I hope they do their jobs. Suicide watch after jurors agreed that she was Epstein's partner in horrific crimes. The Maxwell family released a statement saying, "We believe firmly in our sister's innocence. We are very disappointed with the verdict. We have already started an appeal tonight," which, by the way, they started an appeal. "We already started on an appeal tonight, and we believe that she will ultimately be vindicated. It was sensational month-long trial." Continued on, because we've been through some of these. I just want to get to the meat and potatoes. It doesn't really say. Here we go. Two reporters ran out to report that the verdict had been reached. 4 additional U.S. Marshals arrived and stood at the back of the court. She sat next to her lawyer, Jeff Palooka, and all the other ones. 3 of the 4 prosecutors who brought the case sat at the prosecution bench. Maureen Comey, the daughter of former FBI Director James Comey, who also prosecuted the case, was not present and had not been in court. Come on, article. Tell me where she's going to sing. Maxwell's accusers. This is a long article. My goodness. Can we just get to the beans? But I guess I'm tired of looking through this. This is a very long article. My goodness. I think they just aggregate everything they ever wrote on this relative subject. But anyway, Key moments of the trial included Jeffrey Epstein's massage table brought into court. Women claimed that Maxwell had recruited them, and they were teens, to take part in orgies with Epstein and his properties around the world. Maxwell declined to give evidence at her trial, saying the government has not proved its case beyond a reasonable doubt, so there's no reason to testify. So she denied testifying. So this headline was a little bit misleading because it says, was she talking with an ABC journalist? So I'm not sure. I'm just going to move on. I apologize. I thought I was going to find some meat and potatoes besides that detail that she talked to an ABC journalist. I mean, how does that indicate whether or not she was going to sing? Anyway, so Prince Andrew, he's up to bat now, because now this case gives more leverage for this case. Now, like I mentioned before, there's still that balancing scale between the 2009 unsealing of the settlement that Virginia Roberts Giuffre settled with Jeffrey Epstein. And then, Ghislaine Maxwell's conviction is also very telling on this. So who knows what will happen. But this is very incriminating for him. I mean, this picture, actually, guys, if you have not seen my video on this, again, youtube.com/Natly Denise, I did a video on the infamous picture taken of Jeffrey Epstein walking in the park with Prince Andrew. This is evidence that he actually knew him. He was, at least an acquaintance, and that it seemed to be that they knew each other very well. But this does not look good for Prince Andrew, I don't think, unless something janky goes on the back end. If you guys know what I mean with the puppeteering and strings pulled. Okay, so this one is probably going to snatch your wig. Snatch your wig. Let me just overview the comments here. Winged Infinity says, we have a lot of crime because we have wimpy at best consequences. We also have a lot of crime because of over half of the people involved in crimes swear oaths to protect each other, no matter what. Fact. I would have to agree with that. We need a justice overhaul. We need a justice overhaul. I think all people with different aspects of political beliefs would agree that we would all agree we need a justice overhaul. So I completely agree with you, especially like when it comes to victims. It seems like they're actually regressing. If you guys see, like, across the US, there's a lot of bail reforms now, and that it actually does affect, obviously, if there's like aggravated sexual assault or rape or sex trafficking, these bail reforms to let these criminals out a lot quicker definitely affects society. So this seems intended, right? So anyway, move on. Okay, so this one's going to snatch your wig. So Ghislaine Maxwell, we were actually informed of this earlier this year, but Ghislaine Maxwell actually had a secret husband that nobody knew about. And he was later found out who he was. He's a CEO for a tech company. And Homeboy was never at the trial. Homeboy was never at the trial, ever. He didn't go to not one day of Ghislaine Maxwell's trial. Yo, man, like, what the hell? Excuse my language, but what's going on? I get it. It's Ghislaine Maxwell. I understand. But yo, he just like left her. Did not even, I just find that interesting. But there's a reason behind that. He was been spotted cavorting in Manchester by the sea with a suspected new flame, Chris McGinn. I'm telling you, this is some tea that's kind of spicy. Ghislaine Maxwell's much younger husband, is coming from the Daily Mail again, appears to be ready to move on following her conviction today after skipping the entirety of her sordid sex trafficking trial in favor of frolicking with new gal pal. Tech entrepreneur Scott Borgeson, 46, secretly married the 60-year-old Maxwell in 2016, but the union was kept secret even from their closest friends and family until it was revealed by prosecutors in a bail hearings. Maxwell now faces 65 years in prison. Despite his offer to post $25 million in bail bond to secure Maxwell's pretrial release, which the court rejected, Borgerson's name had not been mentioned throughout her 3-week trial, and he did not attend the proceedings in Manhattan. Instead, Borgerson has been spotted in the company of a new female friend in the elite New England enclave of Manchester by the Sea, Massachusetts, where he keeps a $2.4 million mansion that he once shared with Maxwell and his 2 children from a prior marriage. DailyMail.com was the first to reveal the possible new flame when Borgerson was photographed with her in Massachusetts, a town in late November. She was since been identified as Chris McGinn, a local journalist and yoga enthusiast. McGinn, 49, covers food and cultural trends for a 133-year-old local newspaper, the Manchester Cricket. When approached by Daily Mail, reporter.com, McGinn declined to confirm or deny the relationship with Borgerson. The millionaire entrepreneur also rebuffed a reporter's question, saying, "Leave me alone, you're harassing me." Okay, first of all, I'm going to peek in the comments about this, okay? I just want to peek in the comments about this. This dude looks like a young entrepreneur, okay? A young entrepreneur. I don't know what Ghislaine Maxwell's situation was before she got caught and got thrown in the pokey. I don't know what that situation looked like with her finances and all that. But the age gap and the marriage to this guy, I just question what is going on there, right? Now, I'm not going to question his preference in women. Maybe he likes older women, maybe so. But he's got to know who Ghislaine Maxwell is, right? Before he actually, like got married with her. So I'm not making accusations or anything like that. I just find it curious what the heck is going on. You didn't know who Ghislaine Maxwell was when you married her? What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about that? Her husband never attended the trial, not once. But see, these details are just like they don't really flow well. You know what I mean? Her husband, Scott, who is secret, even from their friends and family, never attended a trial once. And then he posts a $25 million bail. But then you would think that there's like some big intention behind that, right? That's $25 million is a big, even for somebody who's rich. You would think that that's a big chunk of money to just put out, but then for him to just like not show up at trial, not once. So there's a big intention there. And then all of a sudden there's no intention at all. There's a big intention to bail your wife out. And then all of a sudden there's no intention at all. I'm just wondering what that relationship is between him and Ghislaine Maxwell, D says just another way to launder the dollars for Warner, probably. And you know what? Probably. Probably. Well, who else does something? Of course he did. He knew what she was up to, says Ken. That's what I'm just saying, like, there were some activity going on since the 90s. And then, with Epstein's conviction in, 2013, where he served that 13-month sentence. There should have been something known about Ghislaine Maxwell at that point. You're telling me you just, you're a young tech millionaire. He don't look bad either. Let me get. I'm wilding out tonight, guys. I'm wilding out tonight. He don't look bad either. Like, nice car, tall, millionaire, young. He don't look bad. He don't look bad. I'm just wondering what the heck was going on. Okay. Anyway, that was just that's him. Doot. Borgeson's relationship with Maxwell has long been cloaked in secrecy. DailyMail.com has been unable to find any marriage license or divorce papers filed under their names in the town or county where they were living. Maxwell and Borgeson were believed to have met about 8 years ago through speaking engagements connected to ocean preservation. You guys know about her 𝘸𝘪𝘏𝘏 Oceanic Foundation, right? The crazy little rabbit hole that goes with that whole thing too. Oh, guys, like there's so many tangent rabbit holes you can go down with the Epstein saga. But yeah, she owns the 𝘸𝘪𝘏𝘏 Oceanic Foundation. Funny fact, I don't know if it's a funny fact, but fun fact, the day that Jeffrey Epstein got arrested in 2019, she completely shut down her 𝘸𝘪𝘏 website. She completely abruptly ended the entire foundation. Shut down the website, ended the foundation all in one day, the day he was arrested. I forgot about that detail. She completely shut down 𝘸𝘪𝘏 the day that Epstein got arrested. And 𝘸𝘪𝘏 in itself is a very, very interesting situation. You guys, if you've been hearing me speak on, my trial coverage on the Ghislaine Maxwell, I have a whole series of it. I kept reading transcripts from this guy named Matthew Russell Lee. Matthew Russell Lee is an investigative reporter for Intercity Press, and he's actually been on the investigative, journalism case he made for himself to understand what was going on at the UN, because Ghislaine Maxwell was real cozy at the UN on the behalf of her Oceanic Foundation, 𝘸𝘪𝘏𝘏. Now, the UN has since completely denied any sort of questioning or giving any details to this investigative reporter on 𝘸𝘪𝘏𝘏. And 𝘸𝘪𝘏𝘏, as it is a big rabbit hole. Actually, you know what? I've been meaning to do this. I need to put this down on my to-do list. I need to upload all my old videos that I made not last year. Upload videos, because I actually made a video on 𝘸𝘪𝘏𝘏 vids on Rumble. Okay, so and on that Rumble channel, I'm actually gonna also put the Chris Cornell Chester Bennington documentary there. But anyway, okay. So anyway, 𝘸𝘪𝘏𝘏𝘏. So she was at the UN. She was at many speaking engagements. That's where she met her husband. And then they were both pictured speaking at the Arctic Circle Assembly in Reykjavik, that's in Iceland, in 2013. In 2015, Borgeson's 14-year marriage to his first wife, Rebecca, exploded spectacularly when she learned of his affair with Maxwell. Rebecca and Scott seemed like a really nice couple, but as time went on, he was very preoccupied and would be on his cell phone a lot, presumably on business calls. He was away a lot for work. A source close to his family told DailyMail.com, "Oh, okay, so he's just repeating these patterns. He cheated on his wife. He's cheating on Ghislaine, allegedly." When the marriage finally crumbled, divorce records paint a disturbing picture of Borgeson, Ghislaine Maxwell's husband, with accusations of him being physically violent, abusive, and extremely controlling, and having an alcohol problem. Borgeson, who married Rebecca in Palm Beach, Florida in May of 2001, once allegedly threatened her, saying, "Don't make me beat you in front of our children." Oh, my goodness. Okay. The source said that Borgeson, Ghislaine Maxwell's alleged husband, revealed his affair with Maxwell is in a stunningly cruel manner after telling Rebecca he was going to London on business and that he would send videos. Rebecca watched the video of him, although he said he was going to London. He was actually in Miami with Ghislaine, the source said. Rebecca was sitting there with her two young children watching this video of Scott and Ghislaine hugging and kissing. Rebecca was devastated. Things quickly fell apart, they added. They took up with Maxwell. After he took up with Maxwell, Borgeson reportedly reveled in the access to power and wealth at the connection brought. There it is right there. There it is right there. There it is right there. That's a small little detail, but there it is right there. After he took up with Maxwell, Borgeson, her secret husband, reportedly reveled in the access to power and wealth that the connection brought. A former Coast Guard officer, Borgeson, founded the shipping data company Cargometrics in 2010, taking it to a reported valuation of $100 million in 2016. Prior to Epstein's arrest on federal sex trafficking charges, Borgeson's connection with Maxwell apparently opened the door for new corridors of power. This lady would, okay, so listen, we're learning a lot tonight, or this morning if you're listening to me in the morning. We're learning a lot. Let me explain what we're just learning right now, okay? Let me just explain what we just learned. Okay, so let me reread this. Prior to Epstein's arrest on federal sex trafficking charges in 2019, Borgeson's connection with Maxwell apparently opened the door to new corridors of power. So, which implicates to me that Maxwell was going to continue doing what she was doing? Possibly. You know, maybe. At one Manchester cocktail hour, he boasted that he and Maxwell just enjoyed lunch with Bill Clinton, just the three of them, according to the Daily Beast. Excuse me? Oh, this is some tea. What is going on here? Suddenly, Borgeson was mingling with the cream of the elite, attending events hosted by Jeff Bezos. Yo! Attracting high-powered financial brokers from Cargometrics, including former Google CEO Eric Schmidt and billionaire hedge funder Paul Tudor Jones. He even upgraded his $15,000 Volkswagen to a gleaming new Tesla, according to Business Insider. For a time, Borgeson and Maxwell apparently shared a happy home life, with Maxwell moving into his secluded seaside mansion and even helping to raise Borgeson's two children, and son now age 14 and daughter now 11. Okay, this is a very interesting piece of this whole Ghislaine Maxwell universe. We're both learning, my friends, my family. We're both learning right now because my mind is blown right now. Honestly, these are some new details I didn't know about. The happy couple shared Borgeson's mansion in Manchester as well, a $1.2 million luxury condo in Boston's chic Beacon Hill. But it all came crashing down after Epstein's arrest in 2019, which sent Maxwell into hiding and forced Borgeson to step down as Cargometrics CEO when his connection to her was revealed. Maxwell was arrested in July of 2020 in a secluded mansion in Bradford, New Hampshire, about an hour's drive from Borgeson, who was reportedly visit her on the weekends with his children. The two children were heartbroken by her arrest because they thought of her as a proxy mother. Maxwell's spokesperson, Brian Basham, previously told dailymail.com, saying they've been living in a perfect harmony until this broke. Yo, this piece of tea, let me tell you guys, this is wow. This is some mind-blowing stuff. So their relationship was unveiled when they had the bail hearings at the beginning of the Ghislaine Maxwell, trial process. And it says here that, however, prosecutors claim that Maxwell was in the process of divorcing Borgeson upon her arrest, arguing against the notion that her marriage tie could prevent her from fleeing the U.S. if granted bail. Wow. Okay. So that was a lot of detail. You know what I mean? Jelly beans. That was a lot of detail. We learned a lot. Okay. So I'm sure we're going to learn a lot more as time unveils overnight. I know that the conviction of Ghislaine Maxwell is definitely probably going to impact a lot of things, including the said cases that I mentioned with Virginia Roberts Giuffre. But you know what? There were many other cases before her, just accusing different people within the Epstein universe. So who knows what can of worms this conviction is going to open. I think I don't know. I just have a little inkling that we're going to see a lot more. That's just my prediction here. Anyway, this was a long Ghislaine Maxwell focused podcast. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. I learned a lot. I hope you learned a lot too. This was very educational. Now I got some tea to dig up on this whole thing. Like, I've got to make a video about this tomorrow. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited because I learned some new things about I thought I knew everything. My mind is blown. My world is turned upside down. What do I do? So anyway, I'm going to get a good night's sleep. And there's a new documentary. I mentioned it yesterday on Netflix called Crime, and it's going over this serial killer who targeted sex workers on the streets. And so I'm very interested to see what, the parallels between law enforcement, the justice system between the 70s and now. So if you're interested in that. Anyway, you guys, you have a wonderful night. If you're listening to me right now, a lot of you listen to me more in the morning. So you guys have a wonderful day listening to this. And as always, thank you so much for your support. Thank you for always sticking with me. Thank you for praying for me. Thank you for loving me. And thank you for sharing this link and telling somebody about my channel. I really appreciate you. And telling somebody about my podcast. If you guys are listening on podcast, please give this podcast 5 stars to get my ranks up, so your girl can get out in the world a little bit more. More people will know about this podcast. I think it's important, and tell them it's unique because I talk about human trafficking news, and a lot of everybody else doesn't. Well, they do, but you know what I mean. Like, it's not day-to-day headlines. But anyway, good night, good morning, good afternoon. Have a great day. Have a great night. Love you guys. You have a wonderful, wonderful rest day. Bye-bye, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for tuning into Unravel with Natly Denise. Please give this podcast 5 stars.